Wednesday mornings were usually predictable in our house. Coffee brewed by 7 o'clock. Olivia in the kitchen by 7:15. A brief rundown of our schedules, Milo nudging his wet nose into our hands for attention, and then the usual scramble to beat traffic down Bloomfield Avenue. We didn't have kids, but we had our routines, built on years of trial, error, and quiet compromise. But that morning, something felt tight. I don't know how else to explain it. Not dramatic, not loud, just off. Like the air was pressing in a little harder than usual. She was already dressed when I came downstairs. Cream wool coat, sleek black trousers, and that rare Hermes scarf I'd bought her last Christmas. She never wore that scarf casually. It was one of those statement pieces she saved for client presentations or big conference panels. The kind of thing she made sure everyone noticed without seeming like she was trying. Olivia had that SK*LL, intentional but always effortless. "I'm running late," she said, balancing her phone between her shoulder and cheek while tossing 2 protein bars and a power bank into her tote. "My car's picking me up in 8 minutes. To Newark?" I asked, grabbing 2 mugs from the rack. "Nope, LaGuardia. They changed it last night." She didn't look up. I nodded. "Chicago still?" "Yep. Leadership Summit. 3 days back Saturday." The kettle whistled. She winced at the sound, yanked the charger out of the wall, and ******* me an apologetic smile. "Sorry, I'm rushing. Did I leave my charger upstairs?" "Never mind, I'll just grab the backup." I watched her for a beat. "Want me to feed Milo before I head out?" "You're the best," she called out, already halfway down the stairs. I followed her movements without meaning to. She'd left the front door open when she darted out the first time. Left a draft sweeping in. She came back not 60 seconds later, muttering, "Almost forgot the damn charger." She brushed past me again. Didn't stop. But when the door shut behind her this time, her phone was still on the kitchen island. That was the first moment something really stuck in my gut. She never left her phone behind. Olivia was glued to that thing. Not in an obnoxious way, but in the way that told you her job, her calendar, and her digital universe were all finely interlocked. She'd sooner forget her passport than leave her phone. And yet, there it was, face up, buzzing. I didn't touch it at first. Just stared at the screen as a banner slid down. A shared album notification. New photo added, Evan work. Live photo. Today. 7:58 a.m. I didn't even need to unlock anything. The preview showed enough. The thumbnail. A morning table, soft light pouring in from a window. Her notebook, black leather, gold embossed initials O.D.L. Sat on the table beside 2 empty glasses and a French press. Across from it, a half-eaten croissant on another plate. The kind she used to pretend she hated, but always finished. It was the name of the location, though, that made me freeze. Mariner's Table, Asbury Park, New Jersey. Wait, I tapped it, let the live photo move. A short, quiet moment came to life. Forks clinked. There was a laugh, Evan's voice, I was pretty sure. Then a subtle, unintentional capture in the reflection of the window, Olivia's scarf. That same rare print. Soft teal, gold trim. Gift-wrapped and monogrammed last winter. And this was 7:58 this morning. Picked up her phone. Maybe I wanted to believe it was a scheduling error, a memory, something preloaded and posted by mistake. But then I noticed the parking stub on the counter. I hadn't seen it before, but now I could see the label clearly. Long Branch Beach Public Parking. Timestamped. 11:14 p.m. The night before. I opened her tote. Not snooping. Not exactly. I just needed to know what made this morning start to feel unreal. Inside, tucked behind her laptop sleeve, was a printed receipt. Folded twice, edges curled. Driftwood Motel, Long Branch, New Jersey. Room 204, 1 king bed. Date: Tuesday, 9:12 p.m. Checkout: Wednesday, 8:45 a.m. I just stood there for a while. Phone in one hand, receipt in the other. Mariner's Table. Long Branch. Her scarf. Her notebook. Her bag. I didn't want to believe it. Not yet. She called an hour later, probably from the car heading to the airport. "Hey, babe," she said, chipper. "Can you believe the mess this morning?" Evan uploaded a bunch of stuff early. Our social batch calendar got completely mixed. I kept my voice level. "You mean the photo at Mariner's table?" A pause. Too short for shock. Long enough to prepare. "Yeah," she said. "That was scheduled for next week's rollout. We were doing a pre-summit promo series. Guess he hit publish instead of save." "Was that this morning?" "No. God, no. That was from a dinner last month. I wasn't even in Asbury today. I was at the terminal by 7:30. She laughed. "You're not worried, are you?" I paused. "No. Just trying to keep up. It's a nice photo." She laughed again, lighter this time. "Evan always makes things look better than they are." I waited. "Oh, and that motel charge," she added quickly. "I know it showed up. It was part of a team block. Our admin booked like 8 rooms through a list. We just needed receipts for the expense report. Don't worry, I didn't even check in." I hadn't mentioned the motel. "That's what happens when Evan does logistics," she added. "We'll probably need to audit everything after this." I nodded, mostly to myself. "Sounds chaotic." "You have no idea. All right, I'll text when I land." And just like that, she was gone again. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, staring at the counter. The receipt, the stub, her charger, still plugged into the wall, still warm from use. The coffee in her mug had gone cold. I told myself there was no real proof. Could have been a weird stack of coincidences, a scheduling mix-up, an innocent assistant with poor timing. I told myself to stop spiraling. But something didn't line up. And that photo, more than anything, the calmness of it, the silence, the detail, felt present, not scheduled. Felt recent. Like it belonged to someone completely at ease, not rushing for a flight. And in that moment, I knew something I couldn't quite say out loud yet. This wasn't the start of anything. It was already mid-story. You don't really notice the pattern while it's forming. It's like water rising around your ankles slowly enough that you tell yourself it's just rain. Not a flood. You rationalize. You excuse. You file it under "she's just tired. She's got a lot on her plate." Or my personal favorite, "I'm probably overthinking it." But once that first crack shows, once you allow yourself the possibility, just the possibility, that something might not be right, every detail you ignored suddenly starts to glow like hazard tape. It was the perfume that hit me first. For years, Olivia had used the same scent, light, floral, easy on the senses. Something French and forgettable that she always said made her feel put together. But about 6 weeks ago, she switched. Abruptly. No warning. It wasn't subtle either. This new scent was thick. Amberwood, leather, something smoky underneath. The kind of fragrance that lingered in a room long after she left it. "I just needed a change," she'd said, shrugging. "Something more grown up." First, I bought it. People change perfumes all the time. But then I started noticing other changes. Her phone, for example, had developed this new habit of always being face down. Not just when we were together, at dinner or watching TV, but all the time. On the kitchen counter. On the bathroom sink. Even when it was plugged in overnight. Always face down, like it was hiding something. And her notifications? Silent. Not just silent, vanished. Olivia used to have reminders pinging all the time. Messages from Evan, calendar alerts, the usual chaos of corporate life. But then, slowly, it all went quiet. She told me she was cleaning things up, that she was trying to live more intentionally, minimalism or something. She said hiding messages was about tidiness, not secrecy, right? Then came the showers. Every night, without fail, she'd walk in the door, kiss me on the cheek, then disappear into the bathroom. It didn't matter if it was 7 p.m. or midnight. No pause to change clothes, no snack, no conversation. Just straight to the shower like she couldn't get clean fast enough. And the weird part? That perfume, heavy, unmistakable, always smelled stronger after she came out. Not weaker. That's when I started mentally cataloging things. Not because I wanted to catch her, but because I couldn't keep pretending none of it bothered me. Like the blouse. One night, I noticed this new coral silk blouse hanging in the laundry room. No label, no dry cleaning tag, no price tag either, just this pristine, unfamiliar piece that didn't match anything else she owned. I asked about it and she said it was a gift from a coworker, a kind of thank you for helping with some big launch. But she couldn't remember who, or what launch, or why someone would give her a designer blouse without, mentioning it. Her calendar started looking different too. She used to show me her meetings when they overlapped with our plans. I'll be late Wednesday. Client call runs until 6:30. That kind of thing. But lately the entries were vague. Just review or check in with no location, no link. Sometimes they'd move last minute, and when I asked, she'd wave it off. Rescheduled. You know how it is. Mornings changed. I'd wake up early for work, and the sink would be full of rinsed wine glasses. 2 of them. Even though Olivia always said red wine gave her migraines, and we hadn't opened a bottle together in weeks. And every time I asked, she'd say she just poured a second one for aesthetic, or to unwind properly. Unwind from what? One Saturday, I found a florist charge on our credit card. Apple Pay, one of those boutique places down in Fairhaven. Olivia is violently allergic to pollen, the kind that gets hives from leaning into a peony. So when I asked, she said it was a gift for her assistant's birthday. From the team, she added quickly. I let it go. But then came the detailing. Her car, usually somewhere between clean and controlled chaos, got fully detailed at a place in Seabright. I only knew because the receipt was still tucked in the glove box when I borrowed it one morning. Steam-cleaned carpets, fragrance treatment, leather polish, the works. When I asked why, she said, I spilled soup. I raised an eyebrow. Soup? Yeah, tomato bisque, she said. Whole thing dumped while I was driving. No stain. She hesitated. It was in a travel mug, right? I didn't say anything else, but the details began stacking. There were toll charges on her Easy Pass for routes she never took, coastal roads at odd hours. One at 11:52 p.m. on a Tuesday heading north on the Garden State Parkway. One at 6:13 a.m. coming back down the turnpike on a Thursday she claimed to have worked from home. One night while feeding Milo, I found a folded-up rental receipt tucked inside a magazine on the table. Boat rental. Lambertville Marina. 2 hours. Wednesday evening. Her calendar had marked that slot as internal catch-up. When I asked where she'd been that night, she said she was in back-to-back calls from the home office. I didn't push. And then came the entry intercom. We live in a modest colonial, not the kind of building with a call box or guest system. But one afternoon, I got a ping on my phone from the shared email. Olivia had requested digital access to a building in Hoboken. An intercom ping. 3:43 p.m. The message was just a confirmation. Sarah Lane is requesting entry. Grant access? Who the hell was Sarah Lane? I asked Olivia offhandedly later that night. Do we know a Sarah Lane? Someone at your firm, maybe? She barely looked up from her tablet. Oh yeah, she's new in procurement. Why? No reason. Just thought I saw her name somewhere. She nodded absently. She's probably in one of the newsletters. I didn't ask again. But then her AirTag started showing strange data. We had them on all our bags for travel. Hers, on her overnight roller, kept popping up in the wrong places. Pinged once in New Hope overnight. Pinged again 2 weeks later past 1 a.m. near a hotel by the river. She said she'd been in the city, staying late with the team. Budget season. You know how it is. I stopped tracking it after that. I think part of me didn't want to know anymore. But the thing is, when you're already seeing shadows, you can't keep pretending the lights are just flickering. Last straw? The mileage report. I opened a shared file by accident while looking for our tax documents. Her reimbursement summary. I scrolled. There, tucked into the notes section, was the name Sarah Lane again. Attached to a 2-day client visit in Central Jersey. Not our town. Not her region. Just floating there like a planted alias in a low-budget spy film. I stared at the screen for a long time. It wasn't one thing. It was all of them, death by detail. And still I said nothing. Not yet, because I was waiting for something undeniable. Something that couldn't be explained away by scheduled posts, team dinners, or vague answers wrapped in perfume. I was waiting for truth to stop knocking and just kick the door in. It's strange what pushes you from suspicion to certainty. For me, it wasn't a message or a sound, or even a confession. It was data. Cold, time-stamped, location-verified data that left no room for imagination. The thing about trying to convince yourself you're paranoid is that you start building elaborate rationalizations. You begin to think like a defense attorney for the person who's probably lying to you. I'd been doing that for weeks, cross-examining my own doubt, editing reality to protect myself. But when my cousin Nate got involved, the whole facade collapsed. Nate had spent a few years in private security after leaving the Marines. He wasn't the type to gossip, but he noticed my tone when I mentioned Olivia's travel mix UPS. He just said, "If you want peace of mind, let's stop guessing." I didn't expect him to act on it, but 2 days later he texted, "Got a contact who can discreetly log movements. No spyware, just legal geolocation trails. You sure you want to know?" I waited 5 full minutes before replying. Yes. That Friday morning, Olivia said she had a 9 a.m. flight to Chicago for the summit. She kissed me goodbye, rolling her suitcase down the steps, heels clicking in their steady rhythm. "See you Sunday," she said. "Don't forget Milo's meds." At 9:40, Nate sent the first update. No check-in at LaGuardia. Device heading southwest on I-78. "Maybe she's taking a connecting flight," I texted back, already knowing that wasn't how corporate travel worked. By 10:15, another message came in. Device stopped in New Hope, paused for 3 hours. New Hope wasn't on the way to any airport. It was a river town, boutique hotels, antique stores, quiet streets lined with overpriced coffee shops. The kind of place couples go when they want to disappear for a weekend without being seen. I told myself there could still be an explanation. Maybe a work detour. Maybe a vendor. Maybe anything. Then Nate called. His voice was steady. "Jake, I'm sending you something. You might want to sit down." The message arrived seconds later. A series of stills taken by one of his old colleagues, a licensed PI who handled corporate fraud cases. The photos were crisp, professional, time-stamped. The first one showed the front entrance of the Riverlight Inn, a boutique hotel that overlooked the Delaware River. There was Olivia, stepping out of a black SUV, her suitcase trailing behind her. She was wearing that same scarf, the teal Hermes, and laughing at something just outside the frame. The next *T widened. A man stepped into view. Evan, her assistant. Same grin, same easy confidence I'd seen at our dinner parties. His hand brushed her shoulder as he leaned in to whisper something. She tilted her head toward him. Not startled, not hesitant, but familiar. Like they'd done this before. The third photo froze everything I'd been avoiding. Their bodies pressed close, not rushed or stolen, but deliberate. Her hand on his arm, his palm resting low on her back. Kiss. Not hungry, not nervous, just calm. Practiced. The final image. Both walking into the hotel lobby. Behind the check-in desk, a computer screen showed a name tag, Sarah Lane. That alias again. The one that had been haunting me through receipts and reports. I didn't move for a while. The house was silent except for the hum of the fridge. Milo nudged my knee, whining softly, sensing something off. I scratched behind his ear automatically, eyes still locked on the photos. Nate texted again. Room registered under Sarah Lane. Riverlight Inn, room 212. 1 king bed. My stomach dropped. At 12:10 p.m. Another file came in. A scan of the hotel folio. 2 breakfasts charged to the room. A timestamp showing both keycards, hers and Evan's. Used within the same 8-minute window the following morning. Meanwhile, at 12:16, Olivia texted me. Flight delayed again. Stuck at the gate. Chicago weather is a mess. I stared at her message while looking at a photograph of her stepping onto the balcony of room 212. Coffee cup in hand. Evan's jacket slung over the chair beside her. I didn't reply. That night, I forwarded everything to a secure folder Nate had set up. I sorted the files by date, cross-referenced timestamps, matched them with credit card logs. Every inconsistency she'd brushed off now had a matching coordinate. The team dinners, the reviews, the missing calendar invites, they all converged around the same cluster of coastal towns. I printed everything and slid it into a plain envelope. Not to confront her, not yet, but because I needed to see it exist in the real world. On paper, her story looked like what it was, a pattern, a routine, something ordinary dressed as exceptional. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed that night, envelope in my lap, Milo curled at my feet. The clock read 2:17 a.m. I hadn't slept, but I wasn't shaking anymore. There was no adrenaline left, just the dull, factual weight of confirmation. When Olivia called the next morning, her voice was light, casual. "Hey, flight finally landed. Chicago's freezing. What's going on back home?" I stared at the speakerphone, the envelope resting beside it. "Nothing much," I said. "Just taking Milo for a walk." "That's good. I'll text when we're done with the welcome dinner tonight. Love you." "Yeah," I said quietly. "Love you too." After I hung up, I opened the photos again, one by one. The strange thing wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the ease of it. The way she smiled in those pictures, like she hadn't left a life behind, like none of this required effort. It was choreography, not chaos. Nate called later that day to check in. "You okay?" "I guess," I said. "It's weird. I thought I'd feel rage, but it's just quiet." "That's what happens when truth replaces suspicion," he said. "The noise stops." That night, I walked Milo down the block, the autumn air cutting clean through the silence. Every house was glowing warm from the inside. Families eating dinner, laughing, living lives I used to believe I still had. When I came back, her suitcase was in the hall where she'd left it. The scarf draped carelessly over the handle, still carrying that faint amberwood scent. I stood there, staring at it, realizing I didn't even want to touch it. On the table sat her open planner. In neat handwriting, she'd written, "Summit, Chicago, October 18th to 20th. Underneath, a note in a smaller, hurried scrawl. "Follow up, Riverlight feedback session 2 p." She hadn't even hidden it. I closed the planner gently, slid it into the envelope, and sealed it. By midnight, I knew what I had to do next. Not out of vengeance, but survival. This wasn't about catching her anymore. It was about stepping outside the lie she'd built and reclaiming the quiet that used to belong to me. Because once you've seen the truth printed in pixels and timestamps, there's no going back to the luxury of doubt. You just stop pretending and start preparing. Once you accept the truth, the next question is what to do with it. I spent 3 days pretending everything was normal. I answered her texts, returned her calls, even sent a picture of Milo sitting in a pile of leaves with the caption, "Waiting for Mom." She responded with hearts and a selfie from Chicago. I could tell the photo was older. Her hair was shorter. The date stamp in the corner betrayed her. I didn't call it out. That was the first step of my plan. No confrontation, no signal. Just quiet preparation. I started by documenting everything: receipts, toll records, GPS logs, **TS. Nate helped me sort it all chronologically, labeling each entry with times and corroborating details. "If she built a pattern," he said, "we'll build one stronger." It wasn't about revenge. It was about precision. Then I reviewed the prenup, something we'd both signed back when we still believed we'd never need it. It had a clause protecting my premarital assets and allowed immediate division in the event of substantiated infidelity. Substantiated. That word had felt cold when we first wrote it, but now it was salvation in legal ink. I opened a new account at a separate bank and quietly transferred half of the liquid funds I was entitled to. Nothing dramatic, nothing traceable at first glance. Then I froze the joint credit cards, not canceled, just flagged for review. It bought me time. Next came logistics. I rented a furnished studio apartment near the office, month-to-month lease. No questions asked. The landlord didn't care about reasons as long as the rent cleared. I told him I was separating and needed something temporary. He nodded in that knowing way people do when they've seen this before. I packed methodically, starting with essentials. I labeled each box by date instead of contents, so Olivia wouldn't notice anything missing if she peeked in the closet. The rest I left untouched. I wanted her to walk into the illusion of stability one last time before the collapse. Milo was the hardest part. I couldn't bring him right away, not to a small studio with no yard. Our neighbors, Linda and Paul, had always loved him. When I told them we were having plumbing work done and needed someone to watch him for a few weeks, they agreed without hesitation. Linda hugged me a little longer than usual, maybe sensing the lie. By the time Olivia's birthday rolled around, everything was ready. The documentation was stored in a secure folder. The financial shifts were complete. The apartment was stocked with just enough to live quietly. I had even drafted an email to my attorney, scheduled to send at 8 a.m. the morning after the party. The night of the celebration, I told myself I'd play it cool. Her friends, co-workers, and a handful of family gathered at our place. Balloons, wine, curated playlists she'd sent to herself. I watched her float through the crowd like nothing had changed, like she hadn't built her life on two timelines. Halfway through the evening, she brought over a man I hadn't met before. Gray suit, polite smile, carrying himself with the effortless confidence of someone who's used to being listened to. "This is Mr. Reed," she said, the tone almost performative. "My boss. Don't worry, he's harmless." He extended a hand. "Jake, right? She talks about you all the time." "Does she?" I said, shaking his hand. His grip was firm but detached, like he wanted to be anywhere else. Olivia laughed a little too loudly. "Don't let him fool you. He's the reason I'm always exhausted." Reed smiled politely, but there was no amusement behind it. His eyes flicked around the room, already looking for an exit. "Happy birthday again, Olivia," he said. "And thank you for the invitation. Stay for a drink," she urged. He hesitated. "Maybe one." He didn't even finish it. 15 minutes later, he set his glass down and quietly excused himself. Said something about an early meeting. She looked annoyed. Not heartbroken, just inconvenienced. Like he'd ruined the rhythm of whatever performance she was staging. As the evening wore on, her restraint unraveled. She leaned closer to guests when she laughed, touched arms, brushed shoulders, too tactile, too bright. Evan wasn't there, thank God, but his absence didn't seem to dull her. She flirted with a friend's husband, made inside jokes that didn't exist, and when I stepped outside for air, I could still hear her laughter echoing through the house. A few guests gave me sympathetic looks, the kind that say, "We see this too." At one point, I walked into the kitchen and found her texting under the counter, screen tilted away. She startled when she saw me. "Just thanking people for coming," she said quickly. I nodded. "You've always been efficient." She laughed nervously. "Don't be weird, Jake. It's my birthday." When the last guest left and the music faded, the silence in the house felt surgical. She began gathering plates, humming off-key. I watched her from the doorway, memorizing the scene. The woman I thought I knew, now just a collection of gestures rehearsed for other audiences. "You okay?" she asked finally. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." "You barely said 2 words tonight." "Didn't need to." She rolled her eyes. "Jake, please don't start." I didn't. I just went upstairs. She followed a few minutes later, humming again, slightly off-tempo. By morning, everything was in motion. The suitcases stood by the door, neatly stacked. My ring sat on the nightstand, catching the first light of dawn. When she came downstairs, still half asleep, she froze at the sight. "What? What is this?" I didn't answer. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, calm in a way that felt unnatural. Her eyes darted between the bags, the empty ring dish, the quiet house. "Jake, what are you doing?" "Leaving," I said simply. "The details are on your desk, dates, accounts, everything." I didn't want to make a scene. She blinked fast. like her brain couldn't process the words. Leaving? What do you mean, leaving? We just… Last night was your birthday, I said. You celebrated. Now it's my turn. She stepped forward, voice trembling. Jake, please. This is crazy. We can talk, whatever's wrong, we can fix it. I don't think so, I said. You've already fixed plenty. She looked around, as if searching for a prop to hold on to. If this is about work… It's not about work. Then what? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The moment stretched thin. Then something inside her seemed to fracture. She reached for the wall, steadying herself, eyes wide with a kind of dawning panic. You can't just walk out. You can't do this. I already did. I stood, picked up my jacket, and walked to the door. Milo's leash hung by the entryway, but he was gone too safe out of reach. She saw the empty hook and gasped softly, realizing what it meant. Jake. Where's Milo? With friends, I said. Until I figure out the rest. She started crying then. Not a dramatic sob, just quiet, bewildered tears. Please, don't do this today. It's my birthday. I know. And with that, I walked out, closing the door gently behind me. Inside, I heard nothing, no running footsteps, no shouted apologies. Just silence. Exactly what I'd planned for. I didn't answer her texts. Not the long ones, not the short ones. Not the ones that said, "Can we talk?" Or the ones that pretended nothing had happened. Need anything from Whole Foods? I wasn't trying to punish her. I just didn't have anything left to say. The truth had already spoken for both of us. For a while, I watched it all unfold from a safe distance. My new apartment with its 2 white walls and hollow echoes of starting over. I walked Milo before sunrise, cooked simple meals, showed up to work early, and left late. There was something clean about the routine. Sterile, maybe, but safe. Then things started happening on her side. Quiet at first, then louder. It began with an email forwarded to me by accident, from a shared event folder we'd both forgotten to unlink. Subject line: follow-up, Chicago Summit attendee list confirmation. I clicked it without thinking. A request from the summit organizers asking her department to confirm their attendance for the final quarter leadership event. Olivia's name wasn't on any of the lists. Neither was Evan's. A week later, I heard from someone in HR. Not mine, hers. We'd met once at a company mixer. She messaged me on LinkedIn of all places, vague but pointed. Hi Jake. Sorry to reach out like this, but we're doing an internal audit related to the Q4 travel reports, and your name came up in an old cross-reference. Did Olivia ever attend the Chicago Summit she expensed in mid-October? I stared at the message for a long time. I could have answered with a yes or a no. I didn't. I just forwarded them the documentation folder Nate and I had built, the receipts, the timestamps, the photos. No commentary, just facts. 3 days after that, Evan resigned. That's how the internal memo phrased it. Resigned. But what leaked out told a different story. Apparently, expense discrepancies had surfaced. Duplicate receipts submitted under different codes. Personal charges on a corporate card. Accommodations for 2 logged under a guest alias that had popped up in unrelated vendor invoices. Sarah Lane. There was a digital trail connecting the alias to multiple locations: Lambertville, Long Branch, and finally, the Riverlight Inn in New Hope. That one was the tipping point. The timestamps and metadata all matched the weekend Olivia claimed she'd been delayed at O'Hare. Her badge was deactivated within 48 hours. I didn't hear it from her. I heard it from Paul, our neighbor, the one watching Milo temporarily. He'd run into one of Olivia's former coworkers at a coffee shop in Red Bank. Apparently, word had spread fast. Not just about the affair, but about the unraveling that followed. Mr. Reed, her boss, the one from the party, had been pulled into it too. He'd apparently confirmed, in writing, that Olivia had no business reason to attend the locations in question. He hadn't authorized those trips. He hadn't even known about them. And then came the vendor. A small events firm Olivia had used during her marketing days flagged Sarah Lane again. This time on old invoices for client-facing hospitality during a supposed recruiting initiative. But there were no clients, no recruits, just bookings for boutique hotels and upscale dinners. The vendor thought it was fraud and submitted a report. HR connected the dots. Legal got involved. Her name was quietly removed from the directory. Her access revoked. The entire digital trace of her career erased in less than a week. Still, I said nothing. I watched it all from the outside like it was a movie I'd already seen in a dream. She called once. Left a voicemail I didn't listen to. She emailed twice. The first was short. Please let me explain. The second was longer. Apologetic. Tightly worded. Like she'd written it 5 times before sending. I know you hate me. I probably deserve that. I know I made mistakes. You don't have to forgive me, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry for lying, for making you question your instincts, for the things I can't undo. I lost myself in something I thought I could control. And I lost you. I closed the email and archived it. The next day, her number showed up on the building intercom. She buzzed 3 times. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked down to the waterfront with Milo and sat on a bench while the sun dipped below the skyline. He curled at my feet, head resting on my boot. I thought about how quickly things had shifted, how silence had become my compass. There was power in not explaining myself, letting her sit in the empty spaces where my responses used to be. The irony? For all the maneuvering Olivia had done, hiding, deflecting, building alternate realities, she'd left the one thread unguarded, the truth. And once that thread was pulled, everything unraveled faster than even I expected. Evan disappeared from social media. His wife, apparently, had gotten wind of things and turned over their shared travel records to the company, confirming every detail. Flights, bookings, purchases. She even submitted the bills from a couple's spa weekend charged to a dummy LLC Evan had created. I didn't need to get involved. The truth moved faster than I ever could. One morning, I passed by our old house. Pure reflex. The shutters were closed. The porch light still broken. A for sale by owner sign staked in the yard. The lawn had gone to seed. I kept driving. Later that night, I opened a new email draft to my lawyer. The subject line was simple. Proceed. The divorce would be clean. I had the documents, the receipts, the clause. All that was left was Olivia's signature. I sent the envelope through a courier. No return address. Just a manila packet with her name on it, and a note inside that said, "No explanation needed." You know why? That night, Milo jumped into bed with me for the first time since the move. He curled close, warm and steady, his breath slow and even. I lay there in the dark, the weight of the day sinking in, and for the first time in a long time, no adrenaline, no grief, just breath. It was over. Not just the marriage, but the part of me that needed closure from someone incapable of giving it. She lost everything quickly. Job, friends, the house she couldn't refinance. Our lawyer executed the divorce like clockwork. I didn't reply to her long letters, but in the final envelope, along with the signed papers, she left a note. If I hadn't left my phone that morning, would you have ever known? She never admitted anything. Evan's wife confirmed it all. Milo stayed with the neighbors. I never looked back. I rebuilt therapy, fraud prevention work, and blues guitar at night. At Ella's graduation, I sat beside Grace, my new wife. Across the room stood Olivia. Alone, faded, no ring. Our eyes met once. She looked like a memory, and I felt nothing. Not hate, not grief, just peace. The kind that comes when the story's over and the page has turned.